In February 1945, the end of the European front was finally in sight. President Roosevelt, Prime Minister of Britain Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, held the Yalta Conference.
When gathering there, each man had their own opinion of what should take place. Stalin was in the best position to call the shots, however, as his army had already occupied much of Eastern Europe and was preparing an offensive on the German capital of Berlin. Stalin's main goal? Spreading communism. Roosevelt was determined to convince the Soviets to declare war on Japan, however, and Stalin was willing to do just that, in order to gain more power in Asia. Churchill was concerned about what would happen to Poland. Stalin was planning on keeping half of it, and Poland had been a major reason for Britain joining World War II to begin with. Churchill couldn't force Stalin's forces out without resuming hostilities. He insisted that the countries in Eastern Europe who were under Soviet influence be allowed to hold free elections. Stalin agreed to those terms. The Big Three, as they were known by, also had to make a decision about Berlin. They divided up Germany and the city of Berlin into 4 temporary zones of occupation. One was for the Americans, one for the British, one for the Soviets, and one for the French. In July of 1945, Germany was defeated, but the Allies still had to finish the war in the Pacific. In addition, Europe was devastated and required a lot of reconstruction. The Big Three met one last time at the Potsdam Conference to finish the work they had begun at Yalta. The Potsdam Declaration was one of the most significant outcomes of the conference. It threatened Japan with prompt and utter destruction if Japan did not surrender. One thing they all agreed on in regards to Europe, however, after arguing repeatedly over treaties and borders, was that Germany would no longer have a military and that the laws from the Nazi era would have to be removed and repealed. There was much in the way of tension between the leaders. For one, Roosevelt was no longer at the table, being replaced by new President Harry Truman, who succeeded FDR after his death. In addition, Churchill started off at the conference as leader of Britain, but when the results of the election were tallied, he was replaced by Clement Attlee, the man who defeated Churchill in the general election. Stalin tried to use the change in leadership to grab power, making demands about territory and money. He claimed it was in the interest of self-defense against Germany. Truman didn't trust him and wasn't willing to compromise or negotiate. Truman also had what he thought was an ace up his sleeve, the atomic bomb, but Stalin's spies had already informed him of the development. What initially unified the Big Three was a common enemy. When that was gone, it became clear that Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States would no longer be able to work together peacefully. This was a major foundational piece that laid groundwork for the Cold War.